Think about the last conflict that you experienced in your life. What happened? How did it make you feel? No matter who you are, no matter what you do, at some point in your life, you're going to experience conflict. What I've learned from teaching conflict management is that usually people think of conflict as the big screaming, yelling, sometimes even physically upset verbal reactions that we get and think about when it comes to conflict. But conflict is a lot simpler than that. And sometimes we can be in conflict and not even know that we're in it. So today, we're going to talk about conflict and interpersonal communication, power in conflict, how to handle conflicts better, different ways that conflicts can end, challenges to handling conflict, and how to manage conflict and power overall. So at the basic level, we need to understand what conflict is. So conflict happens between two interdependent parties. So you might have seen independent, and you may have seen dependent, and maybe you've seen the word interdependent before. But usually, if you're interdependent with someone, your actions will affect them, and their actions will affect you. You're not completely dependent upon them, as if a child with their parent, and you're not completely independent of each other, that your actions have no bearing on their actions, but in some way you're connected. Now, conflict occurs when there's perception of incompatible goals, scarce rewards, and interference from the other party in achieving their goals. Keep in mind that I said a perception of these things. This is our first step at learning how tricky conflict can actually be. So, like I mentioned, conflict begins with perception. It can be something small, like you want to go to McDonald's and someone else wants to go to Burger King. And you see this as them getting in your way of getting what you want. Sometimes you can build it up in your head that someone is intentionally trying to distract you or take you away from doing what you want. In reality, that's not actually happening. Conflict always begins with the perception. And it's going to involve some clashes in your goals, so you getting what you want, or your behaviors. So for example, someone calling you out on an action that you do. Like, oh, you're being really judgy right now. And that makes you upset. And then you enter into conflict. Conflicts are always going to, over time, unfold as a process. So conflict's just not this one thing that happens. It really is a process that occurs. And they're always going to be dynamic. That means that they're always changing, they're always adapting. A conflict is never going to stay static in one place. How you feel, how they feel, how you act, how they act, it will always be a constant movement and shuffling of actions. Now, there are different reasons why we actually have conflict. Sometimes it's just irritating partner behaviors. I know for some people it's that tapping, just tap, 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 and you just get so upset that they always do that. Or they hang out with their friends a little too late, and you already know, you've talked about this, and this is an irritating partner behavior. Sometimes there can be disagreements regarding relationship rules. Maybe you and your best friend have a rule that whatever you say in secret needs to stay between the two of you, but you know she broke that rule last week, and now you're in conflict. The reason being because there was a disagreement with how she regarded your relationship rules. And sometimes there can just be personality clashes. Sometimes you meet people, and no matter how hard you try, just something about their personality or something about your personality clashes. And that can be a reason for conflict. Now, whenever we think about conflict, we also have to think about how is power factoring into this conflict. Number one thing to think about with power is that power is always going to be present. Now, sometimes power is going to be balanced between two parties, that you're going to be equally on both standing. Think about you and a coworker. If you've been there for the same amount of time and you both are at the same level in your job, then you have a balance of power. People expect you to be able to do the same things, and that person doesn't feel powerful over you, and you don't feel powerful over the other person. Sometimes there can be an imbalance of power. Think about your supervisor or your boss. They have more power over you. Therefore, there's going to be that imbalance. That even if they ask you to do something simple, maybe just a favor, you may still feel likely that you need to do it, even if you don't want to, because they're in a position of power over you. We even see this imbalance of power in dyadic power theory. Dyadic power theory basically says that people with a high level of power don't feel a need to express that power in being demanding or yelling or overly commanding in how they get their wishes done by other people. But someone with moderate power may feel like they need to demand it, that they have to be aggressive and have to wield their power in a way that you know that they have power over you. Again, that shows how even a little bit of extra power can affect somebody as opposed to having a lot of power. Now, power can be used ethically or unethically. We've seen this before, especially in big business, where people who have a lot of power maybe make unethical decisions that cost lots and lots of people money or lots and lots of people their job. But we've also seen some ethical examples as well, such as the CEO who goes above and beyond to give everybody a raise, or who does whatever they can to keep the company afloat so that people can have extra time to find new jobs. Now, the thing about power is that power is also a process. Because it's a process, power has to be granted. So the fact that you go into a classroom and you sit next to your classmates and then the instructor comes up to the front, you are in essence giving that instructor power. You are trusting that someone has given this instructor an authority to teach you, that they have the expertise to teach you, and you're giving them that power. In this case, to be your instructor. Again, same thing happens at work, even in your family. Power is always something that you grant. Keep in mind that power is also going to be a big influence in how we deal with conflict. If you feel as though you're less powerful than the person that you're having conflict with, it can definitely affect how you manage that conflict overall. So now let's discuss 5 different types of power currencies. You can think of currency the same way you think about money. It's just a way that we have this extra resource, this extra value that we place. Now, some people, their power currency is resource currency. That means that they have a lot of material things, such as either money, property, or food. And because you may want that thing that they have, or maybe they can share what they have to other people, then they have resource currency. So think about when you were a kid and your best friend had a cookie and you really wanted that cookie, or at least a piece of it. In that case, your friend had resource currency. They had a material that you wanted, that they have the power to either share with you or not share with you. Then there's expertise currency. So this is when someone has special skills or special knowledge in a particular field. Now, this type of currency is beneficial, especially in research, in classrooms, and even on the job. Think about the person at your job who has the most seniority. They've been there the longest. This person has expertise currency. They know all the ways to fulfill the job. They know the paperwork to fill out. They know how to help you find the right person to check yes or check no on your timesheet or on your time off request. This person has that expertise currency. Next is social network currency. So this is a person with the friends, family, and acquaintances that make them the person that everyone wants to go to. Either the popular kid with all the friends, the person who's always throwing the really funny parties. Sometimes they know somebody that you don't know, and they can maybe introduce you to them. and maybe help you get the next big job. Because their social network is so expansive and they have influences and connections across the board, they have social network currency. Then there's even personal currency. Now, this refers to someone's personal characteristics that are desirable. So maybe beauty, intelligence, charisma, communication, even their sense of humor. Now, if you lack one of those, or you want one of those to be fulfilled in another person, then that person has personal currency over you. I always find it interesting when someone says, "Wow, you're really funny," because I don't always think I'm funny, or I have a really interesting sense of humor. But this is something that people recurrently tell me, so I'm guessing my sense of humor is a form of personal currency. And lastly, there is intimacy currency. Now, this is a type of currency that you have with someone that you share a very close bond with that no one else shares. So think about your best friend, or your partner, your romantic other. With those people, you're probably going to get something out of them, and they're probably going to do things for you that no one else is going to be willing to do. I know I have one best friend who helped me pack up all my stuff and move just because I know she's my best friend. Now, even culture has different ways that we view power. Sometimes even the different power currencies that are valued. In Asian and Latino cultures, traditionally, resource power is valued more so than in the US and Canada or Northern European cultures. Yes, there would be the idea of, hey, I respect this person who has a lot of money, a lot of resources, a lot of objects, but if they overstep their boundaries here in the US, we would probably go talk to them and let them know that resource currency is not that powerful. Even how we think about power distance can be culturally viewed. Now, power distance is how you see a hierarchy. Overall, if you're in a high distance culture, there's a lot of respect put into the hierarchy. Either this person at the top has worked really, really hard to get there, and you show them that respect, or they're an elder, and you show them that respect. Usually that means there's an unequal approach to how you view power. That if they make a decision, you respect that decision even if you don't necessarily like it. In a low power distance culture, there's more emphasis on a flatter structure than a true hierarchy. Therefore, even if somebody has a lot of power or they're your elder, if you don't like a decision they made, you probably would tell them because you view that we are all equal and that we all have these views and opinions that we need to express and share. Even think about how power is gender related. Here in the US, and probably also in most Western societies, it is a patriarchal society, which means that it has been male dominated. Keep in mind that, yes, we are moving towards a more progressive society and gender equality is becoming an even bigger thing. That men and women and those who are gender non-binary are all being treated as equal, more so than in years past. However, we're not fully there yet to gender equality that we would all hope for, or at least some of us would hope for. We can see this in our own communication. So maybe thinking of the woman in the office and saying, "Oh dear, let me help you." Or even the way that traditionally women are seen as negative and bossy, as opposed to men being seen in a positive light as assertive. So now that you have a better idea of how power works in our everyday life and what a conflict is, we'll move on in part 2 of this video and talking about how to handle different conflicts and then the different ways that we manage them.